guys. So I'm really excited today. We've got Erik the House FANKHOUSER, one of the most iconic bodybuilders ever, I think, because of the Animal Pack ads and the motivational videos you used to put out. I used to watch all your videos, and you're one of my favorite bodybuilders. So I'm extremely happy to have you on today, Erik. Thanks for being on here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
No problem. And I'd like to get this started by kind of getting to know you a little bit. How you got started in bodybuilding, and kind of just take us through your journey. Starting, you started with football. I know you started playing football. You got recognized for your musculature and everything. So take it away from there. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much started bodybuilding in high school, and I always loved to work out. Always was into football and track and field. And once I got done with high school football, I moved on to college. And then when I was playing college football, um, at the end, like everyone was like, "Oh, you got to do something. You got to get into bodybuilding. You're huge." And I just lifted like a football player. You know what I mean? And I had some people contact me like, "You need to try a show. You need to do this." And I'm just like, Well, football season ended, and I like needed to fill this void of something to do. So I was like, "Hell, I'll try it, man." You know what I mean? I'll give
Yeah.
it a. And I was going to school for exercise physiology, so it kind of fit. So I was like, "Well, I'll try these experiments on myself." You know what I mean? That we're talking about.
Yeah.
I started, just into bodybuilding, and it took off, man. You know what I mean? It went really, really fast for me.
Okay.
Did my first show in 2004. It's a little show from in our town. Did well. I think I placed like fourth or fifth.
So how old were you when you did your first show there?
I was like 22, 23 years old when I did
Cool.
my first show. So I did good. You know what I mean? I didn't know what I was getting into. Didn't know anything. You know what I mean? Found a local trainer, awesome dude, Andy Bartolovich. He's real big in the NPC. And he kind of guided me on my way to bodybuilding. Well, the second show comes around 2005. Did that, won the West Virginia State show, and qualified for the North Americans. Did the North Americans in 2006. Placed, I think, fifth in the heavyweights or light heavyweights. I think it was heavyweights. And then 2007, I ended up winning the overall, and that's how I turned pro. So it went
Nice.
really fast for me, man. I mean, I was blessed to have a good path to get to it. I mean, I worked my ass off, but I did it pretty fast.
Yeah. So you were definitely born for it. Um,
I
you
want
know,
to, I want, I want to just jump in and ask here.
yeah.
So, because like you said, you played a lot of sports. You did like a bunch of the different bunch of different sports. Did you find that it was easy to transfer over to bodybuilding because was it similar for you, like the training method and the mentality? Was that already ingrained in you, or was it just like, holy, this is like a completely new challenge? I'm into it.
For me, no, it was an easy transition because I think all the sports had given me a good like foundation for it. And in all honesty, one of the biggest things I probably changed was as a football player, I kind of lifted more like a power lifter. And when I became a bodybuilder, I mean, I kind of focused more on uh, just isolation movements instead of all the big compound movements, to tell you the truth. But I believe that, I mean, it was a good, easy transition because I think that I had a good foundation and a good work ethic.
Yeah. So you definitely would agree with the statement that being in athletics before you start bodybuilding can definitely help you with that,
Oh,
because
100,
you're learning that discipline. You're learning, you were already training by then, so it makes sense that it's an easy transition.
100%. And I grew up as a wrestler also, so the dieting and everything kind of helped out that way also.
Gotcha. Now, when you did first start, working out and getting into the actual bodybuilding training, was there anyone that you looked up to during that time that motivated you to actually compete?
I would say I followed Jay Cutler and Ronnie Coleman. I mean, those are the two that I looked up to, and I always seen them in the magazines, and I'm like, oh man, I want to be as big as Ronnie. I want to be as big as Jay. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
those are the dudes that I really, really followed, and I would have to say they were the ones that kind of got me into it, like as
Yeah.
it wanting to be a pro.
Gotcha. And when did you pick up the Animal Pack sponsorship originally?
Kind of crazy because the Animal Pack sponsorship was another thing that kind of was like, I never expected it. I posted some pictures online, you know what I mean, and did a few shows. And when I won my first show, like in 2006 is when I picked up a sponsorship with them after I did the North Americans. And it was just because they saw pictures online and they saw my calves and they're like, oh, we got to do like a calf thing with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
we like wanted someone with freaky legs and freaky proportions. So they're like, well, we want to do a calf thing with you. But it was like, it was awesome, man. It was like, that was like the best thing. Competing was good, but like meeting all the people from the photo shoots and with Animal and just throughout the industry is really what made it for me.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can imagine that whole experience was just like awesome for you. Being able to like share that Animal Pack camaraderie with guys like Frank,
Yeah.
Evan as well. It seemed like you guys were
Can I?
like a brotherhood, and that's kind of what inspired me. It's like I want to be part of something cool like that too when I was younger. So, go ahead, Mike.
I was just gonna say, like you mentioned calves, and I'm just gonna be the dickhead here because I know you probably talk about this all the time, and I have no problem being the asshole to bring it up. But anybody that knows Erik FANKHOUSER, guys, you have to know that this guy is like calves. They don't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Um, I'm gonna guess like part of that was genetics. Did you work hard at calves? And like, if there is, I mean, calves are something that everybody just like if you don't have them, it's almost like impossible to grow them. And everyone's looking for that secret. Is if it wasn't genetic, was what did you do? And if it was genetics, what did you do? Like, did you work on them to improve them even more?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'm going to have to say that it also stems back from my football, from growing up as a football player. I used to run a lot of hills and I used to do a lot of jumping drills like plyometrics. And I think a lot of that helped. And I used to wear like this, you remember back in the old school, like strength shoes that you would run around up on your toes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, I used to be the dude that was in the back alley running with those shoes on. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna build my legs up. I'm gonna be running a 4.40. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
that guy.
Prior to that, though, was there something there already?
Yes, genetics does play a role in it. I would have to say. Yeah, there's things that it's easier for others. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It must
just like
be.
I mean, just like my biceps were never like great. You know what I mean? That's one thing, or my chest. But my legs were always really good. So I think everybody has those body parts that are really good.
You're breaking some hearts for sure.
That's for sure. Yeah.
No, but listen, like I do believe that you still can work on them and get them better than what they are. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Like if you don't have the best
They just won't
biceps, yeah. If you don't have the best
They
biceps in the
just
world,
won't
you
be
can
like
still make them
28
better.
inches or whatever the case may be. Sorry, Robin. I was just gonna say they just won't be 30 inches or whatever. They won't be the size of like a bikini girl's waist.
Yeah, mine was like 24 inches was like the biggest they were actually ever measured in contest shape. So it's pretty big.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy.
All right, that's enough. That's enough. I won't ask you any more about your calf.
But since you brought up like competition shape, I just want to see if I can share my screen real quick here with you guys. See if you guys can hit that. Okay, share screen. Can you guys see my screen here?
Yeah.
Okay, so this picture right here, this picture is crazy because first of all, you have absolutely no face, but also like 0% body fat. Was this the show for New, or was this the New York Pro right here?
No, that's NPC. That's when I won the North Americans. I bet you can't guess how much I weighed in that picture.
Is that when you got your pro card then?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm gonna guess like 235.
No.
No. Not even close.
At weigh-ins that night, I was like 210, 209, right around there.
Wow.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And how tall are you, Erik?
I'm 5'8".
That's crazy. So I mean, this looks huge because you're so lean.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I always really enjoyed about your physique. Like, here's another example, where you would always bring really good aesthetics because you were always in shape. You always had a small waist, and then with that small waist and that conditioning, it would exaggerate all your other features. And then here's one more that I found. This one you just look like absolutely huge. Do you remember this picture or when it was
Yeah,
or
that
how
was
old you
off
were here?
season. That was
Yeah,
off season. That was actually like after a show, maybe like a month out, and I think I was like 260 there.
that's crazy. That's a huge weight.
But even as a pro, man, like everyone would be like, "Ah, what did you weigh on stage? You had to be like 230." No, like the most I was ever on stage is about like 225, 220 when I was my best. You know?
Gotcha.
That's insane.
Yeah, like I never,
So
even when I was on the Olympia stage when I did the Olympia in 2010, I still wasn't above 220. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Then I had to stand by these dudes that were like 260, 280. I just felt
yeah,
I felt so small, but like I don't know what it was, but I always looked a lot bigger than what I was weight wise.
yeah. I mean, it's always the struggle, right? I mean, you want to get the maximum conditioning, but as a bodybuilder, you're always going to feel small when you compare yourself. So, I imagine that was tough. Being on the lighter end, competing against some guys that are like 250 and 260. Did you feel like you needed to gain more size in order to hang with them, or?
No, because I tried to gain more size and it just wasn't me, man. I lost condition with that, and I
Yeah,
felt my waist
Mm.
started to get bigger, and I felt my best when I was on stage around 220.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that is one of the biggest things that, the in terms of physiques, the trends in the physiques.
Yeah.
We're starting to see the trend go towards larger overall midsections. So, even though you're getting an overall bigger bodybuilder, you might not be getting an overall better bodybuilder. That's in my opinion. But I always like seeing a small waist. And there's good example right here with you is that pushing the size doesn't always necessarily make you better. You can continue to refine and improve your physique regardless. So, talking
Play
about
to
like
your strength.
yeah, play to your strengths exactly.
Play to your strength,
So
right? Oh, some people they look really good at a specific weight or something. And then, they go into a show and they get outsized, and then their next show is like, well, I got to get like way bigger and sacrifice so much trying to play to somebody else's game where, maybe your game is not size, maybe your game is symmetry, maybe your game is condition, maybe your game's, combination of two or three or whatever, but it's not overall size. It's good that you could take note of that and say, you know what, this was kind of, I felt good at 235, 225, whatever the case may be. I'm going to stick with that.
yeah,
Is that something that like how did you come to that? Like you just never got caught up in the I want to be, I want to be much bigger, or I need to put on this weight. That just came naturally to be like, okay, I'm happy with this weight or I'm happy at this size.
For me, man, like I was kind of old school, you know what I mean? So I always wanted to be bigger. Don't get me wrong, but it never played to my advantage. I'd come in always out of shape if I tried to be bigger. So it for me personally, maybe I didn't do my off season right. I don't know. I ate a lot of food, got fat, and then dieted down. You know what I mean? That's how I
Yeah.
was, man. Like
Yeah.
I was kind of a different. I'm kind of like I said, like old school. I was like big, eat. You know, to get big in the off season, and then shred down, and whatever it is, it is. I didn't really care what the scale weight was, as long as I felt miserable dieting. And that's the truth. Like one of the reasons I love dieting is because I love to feel like miserable. You know what I mean? If I felt like junk and I felt like death, then I knew I was going to look damn good on stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if I think if people can like go through a little bit of suffering, you're going to have the benefit. I think bodybuilding, you have to suffer a little bit. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know if it's different these days, like I said, because like I'm totally still old school. I don't care. I go lift and just I don't care what I do. I just go do it, and if it feels good, I do it. You know what I mean? And that's how I was with dieting. I was like, I'm not feeling hungry enough. I'm taking less food away and doing more cardio. So I think maybe it hurt me feeling like that. You know what I mean? Maybe I could have been bigger on stage, but I mean, I don't regret
You
anything.
chase the suffering.
Yeah, I chose
yeah,
suffering. Yeah, I
yeah.
loved it.
I don't know. I mean, I liked that. I liked that mindset because it was very hardcore. It was very intense. It was very, very, very motivational for me, especially as a younger guy, kind of looking up to you and, you know, seeing your work ethic, there was absolutely no excuses. It was literally like, you know, eating coffee grinds and stuff. Like that's how hardcore it was, man.
Still. You know?
I'm curious about that. Tell us about those coffee grinds. What got you started into just eating them?
Well, I've always loved coffee, but back in the day, like through Animal, I was like, man, I'm just gonna eat it instead of drinking it because because it tastes so bad. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then like it was like because I still worked like a job. You know what I mean? And I was still grinding. So like
Yeah.
when I was working, I couldn't just like sit down and eat a meal like I needed to do. I would put fish and oats in a shaker cup, and in between, like when I got a second at work, I'm drinking it. I drank a lot of my stuff. You know what I mean? I'd have like hamburger patties like weighed out in the 8 ounces or whatever. It'd be in my pocket, and I'm just waiting for people to walk away, just telling them they're eating it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I lived even as a pro. Like it's not like it was like glamorous. Let's just put it that way. I mean, all the stuff was always true. So,
well, yeah, not only were you a pro, well, you are a pro, but not only were you competing as a pro, but you were working full time and you have a whole family to consider and take care of as well. So I imagine that was a lot on your plate. How did you deal with like the stress on prep? How did you deal with doing all the things you needed to do as a bodybuilder while maintaining a full-time job, maintaining, you know, a happy family life too?
I mean, it just comes down to choices, man. You know what I mean? It's like you're just gonna do it or you're not gonna do it. I think if you have that mindset, then you'll overcome anything. But I mean, yeah, the work was hard, but in all honesty, I think when I wasn't working, or if I ever wasn't working, that's when I fell off my schedule. I'm a scheduled person that if I know I'm going to work at this time and going to eat at this time, and when things change, that's when I got screwed up. I like being in that strict regimented schedule, having the family time at this time, eating at this time, working at this time. It's when I'm out of that is when I kind of get thrown off.
Gotcha. So for anyone else that's, you know, trying to raise a family who's working a full-time job and they still want to bodybuild, you can't make that an excuse because it's all about just making the right choices and, you know, doing what you got to do regardless, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to do something, man, you're going to do it. It comes down to that. You are your maker. I always said either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. I mean, you can't blame anybody else. You can't blame your kids for eating pizza in front of you when you're doing a show, or your wife ordering out, or missing a workout because there's 24 hours in a day. You know what I mean? If you can't give yourself an hour and a half to work out, then that's your own fault.
That's right. Yeah. Especially when it's something that you enjoy. And
yeah, if you have a goal, you'll do it.
that's right. So you competed as a pro for how many years, and when did you what was your last show that you competed as a pro in?
Well, I turned pro in 2007, and my last show was at the end of 2012.
Okay.
So last show I did was over in the UK. I did the British show.
Gotcha.
Neil Hill's show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, for any of those pro shows, did you work with a coach or did you do your dieting by yourself?
I always had Andy Bartalovich, like I was saying. He always did my diets. And then the last like year and a half, I went with Neil Hill.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, did you see a big change in your physique when you switched coaches during that last year and a half?
It was definitely different for me. I came in a lot fuller, I think, with Neil. But I mean, honestly, at the end, it was always the same. It came down to me knowing what was right for my body. Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's always good to have good eyes and tell someone that maybe tell you that you're looking flat or this and this, but it all comes down to knowing your body and feeling how your body's reacting to different things.
See, I think that's good information though, because there's a lot of guys nowadays. Well, first of all, there's a lot of coaches nowadays. So with more coaches, there's more opportunity for people to shop around for coaches. I think it's good for people to, you know, take what you're saying as if you stick with one coach for a long period of time, you're still going to get great results. You don't need to shop around and try to learn from everybody because you should really be trying to learn your body yourself and helping your coach with that relationship and learning your body together.
Exactly.
Do you agree with that?
I 100% agree with that. I mean, I think if you have a good coach, you should have a relationship that's back and forth. You tell them how you're feeling and they adapt the way that they feel fit to change change what they're seeing. But I mean, it can't just be like a cookie cutter where they're giving you the same diet as everybody else because everybody's different. So if they can adapt and you've seen like 5 people that they've trained and they're all eating the same calories and one person weighs 200 pounds and one person weighs 250 pounds, then I don't believe in the cookie cutter thing.
Yeah, that never really seems to work, does it?
Can I ask Erik? It was never. I don't know of any. I didn't know that you kind of stopped competing. Was that something that just kind of hit you? Like, was it just like an aha moment? Like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. Was it just kind of a gradual thing? And if it's safe to ask, like, what made you stop?
I mean, that's a good question. For me, it was kind of just something that just hit all of a sudden. You know what I mean? It was like I did my show, and like I did a lot of things in bodybuilding that I wanted to do. Like a couple of my goals when I first started bodybuilding was to have a sponsorship, which I did. Then it was to be on the Olympia stage, which I did. And then it was to be on the cover of Flex and MD, and I did both of those. And once I accomplished those, I mean, I guess I came to the realization is I'm never going to be Phil Heath. You know what I mean? I was competing against Phil Heath. I was my best. I'm not going to win the Olympia. I know that. And it just came down to my family was getting older. I was spending more time away from home, and I just wanted to be me. You know what I mean? I still love bodybuilding. I still work out, still do all that. And I did get another job where I'm working 12 hours a day. You know what I mean? And there's no excuse, but like, it's just, I had to do that for health insurance reasons for my family. So it came down to family and just, I mean, I did it for a while. And for me, I just got out of it before I got too deep into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a smart move. I mean, everybody that does bodybuilding knows what goes into it. So we don't need to discuss that, but there's only so long that you can be in bodybuilding 100% and still be healthy afterwards.
I mean, and I think everybody's different with that too. I mean, there's some people. I mean, look at Dexter Jackson, man. He looks awesome at his age. You know what I mean? He's like, I mean, I wish I looked like that when I was 30. You know what I mean? So it's just everybody's different, and I think everybody can do it longer if they want to do it longer. But some people, I mean, they have other things that come up, and they just dip. You know, I was happy. I was content.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think when you lose that drive and you don't really have like a bigger picture of a goal, you're kind of just wasting your time in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of did what I wanted to do and then got out.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I have a question because there's probably so many memories that you have about Animal Pack. Like some of the ones that I can even remember off the top of my head was like 1 year at the cage, in the animal cage, you did like this crazy bicep curl challenge. It was like, like 50 reps or something. The crowd going wild, like all things like that. Like, is there one kind of memory or thing that can stand out that you could tell us about? Maybe like a little story.
Oh, I have so many stories, man.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Well, like serious. I got horror stories. I got good stories. Probably not too many people know this, but probably I'll do it short, but probably one of my like craziest like horror stories of a competition. All right, I was competing in Connecticut. Okay, me and my wife. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money at the time. We book planes. We go up to Connecticut. Okay. I don't have any food. We get up there. We go to check into the hotel. All of our stuff is declined. We're like, oh shit, what are we gonna do? You know what I mean? No food, no hotel. We're stuck miles and miles away from home.
Oh.
All right. So we're like calling people, trying to just get a room. You know what I mean? That's how broke we were. You know what I mean? But I was grinding because that's what I wanted to do. It was early in my career. Yeah. So we're up there, and once we're up there, my laptop gets stolen once we get in the room.
No.
Christ.
All right. Like so many things happened. There was like ants all in the hotel. Like I'm cooking my food. There's like ants in them. It was crazy. Once we got in there, we had people wire us money. We was broke as hell. You know what I mean? And to top it all off, I looked like shit that show. So that was one of the stories that I had. Many more. In all honesty, like probably some of the best like moments that I had were some of the photo shoots that I did with Animal and just traveling around. Yeah. I remember one time we went out to it was California. We were out in Los Angeles. Okay. on the 405, which is a big highway out there. Okay, I'm just like, this is before I was even pro. Like, I'm pretty much just not too far out of high school, just at the end of my college there. And I'm driving on the 405. Now, I'm from like somewhere where there's no real big highways, okay? So I'm out there driving. We about get sideswiped, ran off the road. We didn't know where we was going. You know what I mean? But then we ended up having like the best photo shoot ever. You know what I mean? It was awesome. Mm-hmm. But just like going to the places like that, you know, and or like staying in hotels where you just get dropped off and you're like, I don't know where the hell I'm at. You know what I mean? And I walked like 10 miles to a supermarket just to get food so I didn't starve that week, because you're just stranded. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is crazy, man. Like, just things like that are just awesome. Those are the things that I'll always remember.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I mean, I can only imagine how many memories you have, good memories, bad memories, but man, that's like, it's all part of the journey, right? So
some of like the best memories that I'd have on stage would be like competing against I always like Kai Green, competing against Kai Green on the stage with him. Doing guest poses that he was at was awesome, because he was always just a really good dude to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Really down to earth. Just meeting all the different people that I met, especially even in, like you said, in the animal cage. That was awesome, man.
Yeah.
I think I remember the curl contest you were talking about. I think I did like 135 for like 50 sometimes or something.
Yeah.
Like how many it was.
Jesus.
It's on YouTube, I know still, but it was pretty crazy. I remember that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Is there anybody that you had any like friendly rivalries with, where you're like, I fucking want to beat that guy, man. I gotta beat that guy.
Yeah.
Or was it just kind of like in everybody?
Yeah.
Always.
I would say like probably one of my friendly rivals would have been Flex Lewis. Because we kind of like I knew him before he turned pro. He'd come up to my house and stuff like that when he came over, and then we kind of like, we competed against each other once and he beat me. And so like, I always hated that, you know, that I never got to compete against him again and beat him. But he's awesome, man. You know what I mean? But he was probably one of my friendly rivals that I always wanted to beat on stage. And even like through social media, if he was doing something, I'd try to do a little better. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think he was one of my friendly rivals.
What about Frank?
He might not have thought that, but I always wanted to do what he was doing, I guess, or beat him.
Yeah, it makes sense. What about Frank or Evan? Did you ever were you guys competitive with each other, or were you kind of just like pretty chill?
We were all pretty chill, man. Yeah, they were all really good guys to be around. All the photo shoots that I did with them and just being around them in the industry was great. I've never really hung around them pretty like outside of bodybuilding to see if they were competitive like that. But everything, the events that I were at, they were always really good dudes. You know what I mean? We've worked out together and stuff, but
cool.
To be honest, I mean, Evan's strong, man. I can't hang with Evan on anything, so I ain't trying to do that.
Evan is really strong. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Now, what about like, you know, how your training has changed? You know, thinking about like how you used to train, how you're training now. I know you're training at home now. Obviously, most of us are training at home right now. How has your training evolved over the years, and what's motivating you to stay training now?
Yeah, my training's definitely changed. I try to lift maybe 4 to 5 times a week. You know what I mean? Just 45 minutes of strength training, maybe 20 minutes of cardio. That's all I'm really doing.
Mm-hmm.
I just do it to stay healthy now. Honestly, I don't care how big I am or how lean I am. As long as my numbers on my blood work are good and I'm happy and feel strong still, that's all I care about.
Yeah.
So when you just said Evan used to train, like Evan was pretty darn strong. Like when you were in your prime of bodybuilding, were you more of like a volume type of guy or more of an intensity? Where you're just like, you know, Ronnie Coleman, balls to the wall, I'm gonna lift everything underneath this friggin' gym's roof? Or are you like, you know, more surgeon style, like, okay, I want to feel everything, I want to contract, I want to control. Like, what was it for you?
I was more of a volume type guy. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. And to this day, I have no joint problems, so I attribute a lot of that to that. I mean, I've never had any major injuries because I never really went too heavy. I went heavy, but I always went heavy like I'd say like a heavy for me was failing like at 12 to 15 reps. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
If I was failing at like 8, that was too heavy for me. I always tried to get around like 12 repetitions. I would go heavy,
Mhm.
but it was a weight that I could do only around 12 repetitions.
So you found that volume training not only, improved your physique, but also kept you healthy relatively in your joints and your tendons and stuff like that.
Yeah, knock on wood, I never tore any muscles or had any major injuries to anything while bodybuilding. So
Well, that's amazing, and I think that's one thing that we should definitely consider. When we're thinking of our own training programs, is as intense as hardcore we want to be. Obviously, there's still going to be a life after bodybuilding, and one of the things that I would really like to have after bodybuilding is have my body, still intact. So, talking about yourself as you were a physiotherapist. Am I wrong or?
exercise physiologist.
Okay, exercise physiologist. So you were already aware of the anatomy and things like that. Did you have people that helped you with like manual therapy? Like, did you have a massage, chiro? Did you have people like that in your corner?
I never did any of that when I was competing.
Ever? Wow.
No,
Okay.
never. I see a lot of people post stuff nowadays on that, but like honestly, when I was competing, it really wasn't that big, or at least I never thought it was that big. No, I mean, I never did any of that. I
That's
think I've
weird.
had
Yeah.
massage maybe in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of weird. It
Did
makes
you
me it
have
makes
any?
me think. It makes me think. You know, it's so much more prevalent now that everyone sees chiropractors, massage therapists, and yet there's more injuries now. Injuries are more prevalent. So I don't know. I'm not necessarily saying that any of those things are bad, but maybe we rely on those things like a crutch, and we go into the gym with a false sense of security, trying to lift too much weight or whatever, because we know that there's someone that can kind of take care of it if we do run into problems. Like if my elbow's hurting, I'll just call up my massage therapist and hey, come fix this elbow for me. And then I'll go right back into the gym the next day and trash it again, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Did you have a lot of injuries? Does that just never happen for you? Where you're like, oh man, like did you ever have that, that nefarious, irritating shoulder that was like everything that you did, you're like, oh man, like this goddamn shoulder every time I go overhead or every time I bench. Is that something that you ever had?
No, I never had any shoulder issues. Probably the only thing I ever had was like just inflammation in my elbows, like he was talking about.
mhm,
It's probably like one of the only things I've ever really had through bodybuilding.
yeah,
Now, I've broken bones and stuff, but that was all football related. But yeah, but other than that, no, I never had anything through
that's
bodybuilding.
awesome. Well, that's amazing. I mean, that's a great accomplishment right there. Um, Makes me think, that it's something that almost all of us should strive for. We should strive to be healthy when we retire from bodybuilding. I want to ask you about your
Absolutely.
kids. I know your son was into the whole bodybuilding thing. Um, what are your kids up to now? Do they like do either of your kids work out with you? Are they still interested in bodybuilding at all? I'm curious about that.
They do live healthy lifestyles. They work out, but they're not into really bodybuilding, getting huge and stuff like that yet. They're still pretty young.
Yeah,
Uh, my boy, he's in ninth grade in high school, so he's a teenager. But I mean, he plays baseball and does hockey. Those are his two sports. But I mean,
awesome.
he does work out with me, and so does my daughter. She's 10 years old, and she works out, but it's more like sports based working out instead of trying to get huge working out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that something that you would recommend, like if there's anyone listening that has younger kids, like between the ages of 10 and 15, and those kids are interested in training, would you recommend that the parents kind of point them towards getting started with sports before getting started with actual lifting? Or would you say that it's okay to start lifting as long as you're very careful and not trying to put on too much weight?
I would say, I mean, the best thing to do is if the parents aren't working out, they should work out to give them the
100%.
motivation. You know what I mean? If your
Yeah.
kids see you doing it and see that you putting time into it, like for my son and that, like my daughter, you don't even have to really ask them because they just see it. You know what I mean? And they just find it or do it naturally because they're like, "Oh, Dad, we working out? Yeah, we're working out." Sometimes they motivate me. You know what I mean? To work out
Yeah.
just because they've seen it. And even if you don't have a gym at home, if it's like hey, you know what I mean? Make it fun. Give me 10 push-ups. You know what I mean? Or let me challenge you in push-ups. I mean, just like you do things like that, I think it kind of ingrains them into working out, and later in life, they'll do it on their own and they'll be more likely to stick to it.
Yeah. Plus, I think it'd be a good way to bond too. You can bond that way through physical fitness and stuff.
So you said he's into hockey and baseball. Does he follow bodybuilding at all? Do you still follow bodybuilding, or are you just kind of like you're out and just you don't really care anymore?
I don't follow like competitive bodybuilding. I'm not gonna lie. I do follow like some people on like social media and things like that. But if you ask me like who was gonna win, you know what I mean, the Olympia, if I would just throw names out, you know what I mean, or who was gonna win this show or whatever.
Yeah.
There's like a few like up and coming guys that I follow, you know what I mean, and I try to stay in contact with them on social media. But other than that, I really don't follow like the bodybuilding world.
So since you don't really follow it too much, but I'm sure you're still aware of the fact that there's like all these new divisions and stuff. Do you have an opinion on the new divisions in the sport, or do you not even really care about that at all?
I don't know. Like, I don't know. I like bodybuilding. So, I mean, if you're not wearing trunks, then I don't, or like you're posing in trunks, I should say.
You're not really interested.
Yeah, like,
Gotcha.
I don't know. I mean, but other than that, like all the women's categories and stuff, that's cool and all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I just can't. I guess that's what got me kind of uninterested in bodybuilding. Everything it kind of changed.
Yeah.
So you know what's it's funny because you mentioned Flex Lewis earlier and talking about your weight earlier, you know, competing at like 215, 212, 220, you're not that far from that 212 division. It would have been interesting to see you in that division, right? Because I mean, you're a lot taller than guys in that class.
Yeah.
But you don't look like it. Right? I shouldn't say you don't look like it. You don't look to be 220 at 5'9", and look the way you do, like it's impressive. Or the way you did it's impressive. So it would be real interesting to see like how you would have done at the 212 division. Like, have you ever thought about that? Like, do you think like that would have been more the way you would have went, or would you have stayed in open?
The only thing that kind of discouraged me from that was when I was doing it was like 202 is what it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which is not going to happen.
Yeah, it's like 202 to get down to it. I would have really had to lose a lot of more muscle, I think.
Yeah.
I think right at the end of my career is when they bumped it up to maybe 212. So
212.
Yeah, that was one thing that I do regret that I wish I would have done. The 212.
Just tried it out to see how you did.
Tried it out.
There. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know if you'd even be able to get down to that, to be honest, because I think like from what you were doing in your diet, I don't know how much less you could have eaten. I mean, you were barely eating any calories to get down to your weight there. So to suck down another 8 pounds, you'd probably have to like lose like almost all muscle to do that, which would be kind of weird, but I don't know. It's one of those things to consider. Maybe you could have dominated that class. Who knows, right?
Yeah, who knows? That's one thing that I wish that, like you said, that I wish I would have tried that. That's one thing in bodybuilding. I wish I would have just sunk down and tried the lighter class.
Yeah.
I wish I would have did.
Yeah. Then you could stand next to Flex and show him what's up. That would have been crazy, man. That would have been absolutely epic.
I mean, like I said, I don't really follow it now, but isn't he going to do like an open show or something? Is this?
So yeah, he's going to be competing in the Open Olympia this year. So that's kind of interesting.
I mean, I hope he does awesome, man. You know what I mean? More power to him.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like he's not done competing yet. So, I'm sure if it was like the situations were reversed and you had the opportunity just randomly to go compete in the 212. I'm sure you would take that opportunity just to see what it would be like. And I think that's kind of what he's doing.
I still could compete in the 212, right?
You absolutely could, yeah, for sure.
Do it.
So I got to ask you.
If you want Erik to come back and compete in 212, comment.
That's right.
Here's the thing, man. Like I could do it and all, but like, come on, man. I'm old now. You know what I mean?
Get out.
You guys, if you guys are
Dexter
listening to this and you want
Jackson,
Erik to compete, you got to spam him with DMs in his Instagram.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
But Erik, I want to ask you: have you ever, in the recent years, have you ever thought about competing again? Like, does it ever cross your mind?
Yes, it does. It crosses my mind, and then I snap back to reality real quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I know what it takes. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm either all or none. That's just the type of person I am. So it's like I'm not going to do it just half-ass. I'm going to have to go all in. You know what I mean? And I know what that's going to take. And it's not just, you know what I mean, time. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean,
And you've got other things on your plate now too, right?
I'm just so happy right now. You know what I mean? Like, why throw a wrench in the plate? Like when you're happy and content, you know.
That's awesome, man. I'm really happy to hear that, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, like I could do it, but I would just be doing it to do it, not because I don't know.
Yeah. But I want to ask you about, kind of what you've been up to lately, because I do know you have a supplement company now that you're running, called Java Up. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I've always loved coffee. You talked about eating the coffee grounds, you know what I mean? So it's always been there with me. But, well, we'll start back. Back in 2013, when I quit bodybuilding, I became a coal miner, okay? So I was working a lot of hours, shift work, so a lot of midnight shifts. So I was always drinking coffee. So I'd always have this dilemma after midnight shift. Do I drink my coffee? Do I take my pre-workout? You know what I mean? So I was like, I need a coffee pre-workout is what I need. You know what I mean? So I came up with this idea, formulated it, and I came out with Java Sups, which is a coffee-based pre-workout, and I'm coming out with different stuff too. So
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically
that's clever.
Yeah, it's just a coffee creamer that you put in your coffee, and it gives you extra caffeine and stuff for a pump and stuff for an itch, and it gives you a little bit of motivation.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I tried it myself, the Java Upped, and I thought it was a really great product. I really like the flavor. I like the versatility. I like the fact that you can, because you're supposed to have it hot, but I also tried it cold and it was just as good. So, it's kind of like when you go to Starbucks and you get one of those cold coffees, you can do it like that. I thought it was a great product, honestly. So that's awesome. I hope that grows, and I hope that gets bigger for you.
Where can you get that product? Share it. Let the viewers know where you can grab it. Is that more is it available online? Is it in stores yet, or what do you plan to do with it?
It's online. It is in a few local gyms here where I'm at, and a few. It's branched out a little bit, but primarily online. It's just javasups.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just my side grind. You know what I mean? It keeps me involved in the fitness industry, and it's something I love, so I just do it on the side.
Nice.
Yeah, that's cool. It's very obvious that you're passionate about it.
Yeah, I have fun with it, So I mean, it is what it is.
Nice. I want to ask you, what would you give advice-wise to someone who was looking up to you as a young bodybuilder getting started in the sport?
Advice for someone that is getting started in bodybuilding? I would say, man, it's definitely not a sprint. It's a marathon. Nothing's going to come fast. I mean, I get all these messages for people. How can you get this fast? Or how did you get? It's not going to happen, man. It's something that you're just going to have to put the time in. And for someone starting out, they got to realize that they shouldn't get down on themselves when they don't see results right off the bat. Just keep going and you'll eventually get results. And I guess just that you're not going to get the same results as everybody else. I mean, bodybuilding is more of just bettering yourself is what I always tell people. You got to be your best version of you. And if you can accept that, you might not be better than the best version of you, you know what I mean, of someone else. But as long as you're your best every time that you step on stage or you go to the gym, then you're doing what you need to do.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, because thinking about that will keep you focused on what you need to get done.
Yeah, I mean, I never compared myself on stage against anyone else. I always compared myself against my last show. Then that's all.
I think it's
much different now, because there's like Instagram and there's there's Facebook around, But it plays such a big role now in bodybuilding, where so like months before anything happens, people are already calling out like, oh, we think this person's gonna win, we think that person's gonna win. I can only imagine like the pressure as a pro, just feeling like defeated before you even show up because everyone's already like, well, this guy's gonna win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's cool that like you don't really compare yourself to people. I think that's a big mistake that a lot of amateurs make. I know I've made that mistake myself, and it just kind of it doesn't really help you at all doing that. All it does is just creates a sense of like anxiety, nervousness, and then you can't possibly be your best if all you're doing is spending your time worrying about someone else.
Yeah.
No, I agree 100% with you, man. It is a lot different now with everyone posting everything. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, during your heyday, it was like really the only way you could see other bodybuilders was from magazines in person, and then they had forums.
Yeah.
And forums were like the first kind of like, that was like the Instagram before the Instagram, because you'd post your pictures, or really
Yeah.
it would be like other people posting pictures of you,
Oh,
It'd be like,
yeah.
here's Erik FANKHOUSER at 12 weeks out. And then everyone, in the comments would be like critiquing the crap out of you, like it's way different now where when you post a picture, 99.999% of the people that comment it's going to be all positive. But back then I remember reading forums and people were brutal, man. They would tear you apart. They would talk shit. It was pretty serious, man.
I would rather people be brutal. I mean, why sugarcoat it? You know what I mean? Like, that's the way I feel. Like, tell me the honest truth. That's how I feel.
Man, well, that's a good way to look at it, because that's going to build like a tougher skin, right? Because now people are so sensitive,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. It's good to be a little bit sensitive, but when it comes down to bodybuilding and competing, you got to be able to take criticism, because at the end of the day, you're being judged on your physique, and that's something that is purely subjective. So you can't take it personally just because someone has something to say constructive wise about your physique.
Yeah. Who says their opinion even matters? You know what I mean? It matters what the mirror says is what matters.
That exactly, yeah. So bottom line is that you got to be happy with the physique that you're building, and regardless of what anyone else says, or regardless of what the judges tell you, you got to do it for you, right?
Exactly.
I don't want to keep you too much longer, Erik, but I do want to ask you a couple quick fire questions, if that's cool. Let's go with what your favorite food is. What's your all-time favorite food?
Just any food, pizza.
Nice. Any food.
I got one. What's the worst? What was the part of dieting for show that you hated? Was there something that you hated eating? Is there something that you just fucking had to just hold your breath and just like shove it down because you're just like, I hate doing this, but I'm gonna eat it?
Eating wise, probably would have been tilapia, like this.
That's all you ate.
Now, like show wise, would have been shaving.
Yeah. What about your favorite exercise? What's always been your favorite exercise, or has that changed?
I would say bent over rows.
Oh yeah, really cool. What about your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Gosh,
Yeah.
I don't know. My favorite movie would be Elf.
Nice.
Not gonna lie.
Sweet. That's like all I've got,
movies.
Man.
I like Christmas, man.
Elf is like one of the best Christmas movies, if not the best Christmas movie of all time. So
exactly.
Did you see that weird thing? I don't. If I can find it, I'll send it to you on DM. But it's like a meme where it's like if you like add up like your mother's like first letter or her name or something, it just everything no matter how you add it up, it always leads to Elf for some reason. I'll send it to you if I can find it. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's really funny.
No, I never saw that one.
Okay, well, let's wrap it up here. I just want to say thanks so much, Erik, for coming on the show. Really good to always, talk to you, and even if it's just like a little message here and there, I know I always appreciate that. And I would love to do it again, if we can, book another time in the future, catch up again and talk. Really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, it was nice meeting
Appreciate it, Eric.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
All your social media, I'll make sure to drop it in the comment below. And I'll definitely make sure to put a link to your Java subs as well.
Sweet, man. I appreciate it.
All right.
And
Awesome,
it was nice
Eric.
talking to both of you.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks so much, Eric. I hope you have a great day and stay safe.
All right, man. You guys too.
All right. See you later. Peace.